Oh, dude, my arms are killing me.
Yeah, well, there's nothing you can do about that.
Wait, are you sure? I mean, we don't know.
All this time we were able to move?
But nobody had the intelligence or courage to try.
Apart from this free-spirited young man.
He's different!
Let's get it!
Community is a group of people. No, really, what is a community? If I were to list the dictionary definition of community, then there would be no video. Family, friends, school, work, military, even our hobbies. Community is ingrained in our society because humans are social beings. We make accomplishments through some form of interaction with others ever since prehistoric times. There must be people who believe in the ideas of the community enough to share them with others to be inducted. But a community cannot exist without the individuals that form it. This causes the community to become a driving force that shapes individuals who take part and drives out those that do not fit the mold. Now, how does one learn about a community? Through the most effective way to spread information, of course, storytelling. Humans have told stories that can end up spanning multiple generations in order to promote these ideas to others and recruit them into these beliefs. And what better way to analyze community than through the visual medium for storytelling? Film. After all, going to the cinema is a communal experience in and of itself, and there are fan communities created around these movies. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So community is built around the idea of belonging. Either you are in it or you are not. The way the individual views their status in the community, whether they are a part of it or not, can determine their course of action going forward. The idea of belonging is heavily explored in Edward Scissorhands, where the titular character of the film goes through the journey of a community that doesn't truly accept him. Throughout the film, the neighborhood was at first interested in Edward's appearance and abilities, or really his disability. But ultimately, he was not accepted into the community the moment the town thought he stepped out of line. It's a tale all too common, one that I can personally relate to, and the film could have not done a better job depicting the man versus society conflict. There are scenes depicting microaggressions, harassment, exploitation, and ostracization towards the disability icon sprinkled throughout the film. I thought of how it was really interesting that Edward had about 2 minutes of dialogue throughout the whole film, yet the neighborhood judged him without really getting to really know the guy. As someone who has autism, it was surreal to see how many parallels can be drawn to my treatment back in high school. I also appreciated in the end of the movie, Edward didn't let the community change the person he is and decided to go back to living in the abandoned laboratory with a newfound focus on his ice sculpting. We can really learn a lot from the tragic yet mature decision Edward made here. The ending also shows how a community that does not accept an individual can still shape the person. The other aspect of the community is what you could say is the official kind, the nation. It is a necessity for countries to be built upon a strong communal foundation in order for people to not just live in these nations, but to take pride in their home. We have seen throughout history how a governing body of the nation can get its citizens to band together for good and bad. Decisions made by the nation are constantly under a balancing act. If those in power do not uphold the will of the people, or push too far into a collective hive mind, the country will collapse. The community of a nation is exceptionally covered in Starship Troopers, a clever satire of America and its military. The recruitment propaganda utilized throughout the film still holds true today, not just for military enlistment in general, but in advertising as well. If you want someone to invest in your product, you make them believe that they belong with it. The propaganda helps the viewer watch this film through this satirical view and makes certain scenes much more impactful, such as the meteor strike on Earth that the Federation frames as an attack from the bugs. The story also feels like a high school drama if you really strip away the sci-fi military aspects, which further romanticizes the military of this nation. Now, what happens to members of a community when it falls apart? How do they move on? Are they permanently displaced? Do they find another? Where can they go? All these questions have many different answers depending on who they are. The answer that the 2018 film Roma comes to find is in found family. I won't spoil the film too much here because this is a film that must be watched without any prior knowledge. But this is an answer that both the film's protagonist Cleo and the family that she works for comes to realize. The film's greatest strength is how realistic the people are portrayed in the film. The breathtaking shots and the detailed setting lead further into this notion. To review the three aspects of Community I went over, I want to go over a work of art that did not originate from film, but rather from music. Of course, I am talking about Pink Floyd's The Wall, a rock opera concept album that explores feelings of self-isolation through the story of a fictional rock star. Reading between the lines, this fictional singer is very much non-fictional, as vocalist Roger Waters based the themes of his own personal feelings of self-isolation and personal history. The 1982 movie adaptation was released later on and was nearly faithful to the original 1979 album's song list and story. So the first half of the album flashbacks to the rock star's childhood, who is aptly named Pink. He recalls the trauma endured from losing his father to World War II at a very young age, as well as the oppressive school system that allowed poor treatment of the students. The flashback ends with a daydream of the students banding together in a rebellion. After this, Pink reaches a breaking point after finding out his wife cheated on him.
After doing the same thing.
And these traumatic life experiences pile up as bricks in the wall, indicating self-isolation as the opposite of belonging to a community. It's pretty hard to belong when you choose to isolate yourself. The climax of the album is reached after the rock star falls unconscious to drugs, leaving the rock star's manager to resuscitate him for the next concert, with even more drugs. This leads to the militaristic aspect of the nation to be explored in this part, as the hallucinating Pink starts to view himself as a dictator and the crowd, his fans, as a neo-Nazi rally. He then influences his fans to attack minorities and mobilize. Once Pink stops hallucinating, he immediately breaks down, which leads to him realizing he no longer wants to isolate himself, and he puts himself on trial, leading to a breakdown in the community that came as quickly as it went. One may wonder, why adapt the album into a movie? I believe it's the same reason people tell stories and end up forming communities around them.